once again for the Texas Torture Podcast starring Shane Bedingfield. And I'm telling you right now, get the retweet button ready, get the share button ready, get the like button ready, because we're getting ready to take over SmackDown today. Put this podcast all over the SmackDown hashtag on Twitter, because this is the breakthrough show. We're going to have a little bit of fun today. We're going to talk about the people who are possibly the most over, and I'm going to ask you, the fans, the toughest and most fun question there is involving the WWE universe and the WWE performers, and that is, get ready. Here it goes. The quote that will make me famous. Which WWE diva would you let give you the golden shower? I know this is revolutionary podcasting. You're catching it here. Well, I'm laying down the tracks nobody else has thought about laying down. I'm talking about stuff that nobody else has thought about. Shane Bedingfield does not imitate life. Life imitates Shane Bedingfield / the Texas Torquich, coming to you live from Fayetteville, North Carolina. So the question is, which WWE diva or divas would you let give you the golden shower? We're taking over SmackDown today with this podcast. We're running the other wrestling podcasters off the show. Now, we got to be clean on this. Whenever we start, that's one thing about my podcast. I do everything. I think I maybe cussed 2 times out of 14 episodes. So we got to keep it clean. It's just like I told this kid in Memphis who wanted to be my manager, this black kid, and I was like, wait, first off, you can't drop the N-word when you cut a promo, and you can't cuss or use foul language, because that's bad in taste. But that doesn't mean we can't have fun and do like the WWE Network should be doing and push the envelope with our show. And speaking of which, I got partners. I got a possible partner with Carson Extreme Sports. I talked to him live last night. He likes the Texas Torquich. He's been a fan of mine for a while. I like the stuff he does. He does a lot of stuff with the PBR tour, and he's got a lot of race connections. He basically he knows everybody in Charlotte. He was part of the Tim Richmond deal at Hendrick Motorsports. So, what we're going to do is, I want you fans to understand that I'm making waves, but I'm talking about stuff that nobody else wants to talk about. Now, granted, my show, compared to the establishment, isn't the greatest thing in the world, but we're like the little train that won't stop. Alex Jones is really the guy that gave me inspiration to do this, but since I started doing my show, I really don't mark out to the other podcasters like I used to, because I got my own show. I talk about my own stuff. I talk about stuff they won't talk about, and I know I'm getting under their skins because I'm starting to steal a little bit of their fan base. So we're going to have fun today. Which WWE diva or divas, the famous Shane Bedingfield Facebook post that set the wrestling world on fire, whenever I asked which diva or divas you would let give you the golden shower, or the quote was, urinate on you. Because I know those divas are hot. The divas are drawing actually, the Divas are the biggest draw right now. Even though Nikki's in the hospital, and at this point, I think we all need to pray for her, because without the Bella Twins, Charlotte and them, you know, Charlotte needs the Bella Twins. Let's just put it that way. And I don't know. I didn't catch that SmackDown the week that I talked about. If they need to hurry up and do some rush booking and book Charlotte against Spre the week that the Carolina Panthers played the Arizona Cardinals. Well, the Arizona Cardinals let the Carolina Panthers beat them because it was a work. But you know, I'll tell you right now, if Cam Newton shows up to a press conference cross-dressing, you know something's up. I've already told you. I said on Facebook yesterday, the Super Bowl is a psyop. It's just like Woodstock. I'm waiting to see what's getting ready to happen at WrestleMania, because WrestleMania may be a psyop too. In fact, what the deal about WrestleMania is it just doesn't draw the crowd. They don't do like the NFL does. Like, they can't get Mark Wahlberg to show up. You know, they can't get, like Kyle Busch, and, they paid Kyle Busch to show up that time at the Raw. But they can't get him to show up on a consistent basis. So, WrestleMania, the WWE has a lot of work to do on getting celebrities there without enticing them to be there. Now, what's his name was a big old fan of Brock Lesnar, the Wolverine guy, which he used to be on my page too. But I'll tell you one of the funniest things ever. You know you're the internet whenever about a year ago, WWE had a hard time because they knew they needed to get their people over on the internet, and me and a girl named Sharon on Facebook, we would get all these friend requests from WWE superstars, and I'm sitting there looking at if it's valid or not, if they're valid accounts, that whole mix. And I don't know. I had fun with it because, like I said before, the Titan Tower is this big. And if you're any kind of celebrity at all and you got any kind of a rush schedule, which the WWE people have, you really don't have time to do your social media stuff. And because you got a busy schedule, it's almost like being like a singer-songwriter. If you're a singer-songwriter to any effect at all, any good, you're writing, you're creating. I'd be willing to, if I was betting money, I'd be willing to bet the WWE superstars spend a lot of time watching very, very old matches. Not necessarily of the Attitude Era, because there's very little that you can steal from the Attitude Era and implement in today's stuff. There's some that you can steal, but not a lot of it. But anyway, you can go back to the 80s and implement a lot of that stuff. I saw Matt Hardy try doing some stuff just because he's so beat up. He's been trying to do a little bit more old school type stuff in the ring because his hips are gone. He can't do tables, ladders, and chairs all the time anymore, because if he does, there's a good chance that he ain't gonna be able to make that much money. I don't know how good he is on the mic, but let's just put it this way. You cannot work like they used to work every night and expect to get up and go do that exact same show again. It just can't be done. So, back to my question. I got off on a tangent there. This is just basically going to be a fun show leading into SmackDown tonight. Like I say, the diva that I think I'd let just pee all over me and just hike her leg and just give me a golden shower would be Eve Marie. She has some of the prettiest skin in the world. And well, that new girl, old Bailey, she ain't bad looking, but Paige is just that bad girl. See, I thought Paige was WWE's answer to Abby off NCIS because they needed something like that, but they didn't know which direction to go with that because Abby on NCIS, Polly Ferret, is possibly, and 2 years ago, she was probably one of the most over people on TV. She may have been just about as over as Channing Tatum right after Channing Tatum just got done doing G.I. Joe. Speaking of hot chicks, there's a girl that, they just don't ever, and I think that's a lot of it's because of fear of Stephanie McMahon / Levesque is, okay, they booked Ronda Rousey to come in and do something. Why not book somebody that looks better than her that can actually talk? Ronda can talk a little bit, but she can't talk near as good as Gina Carano. How come they don't bring Gina Carano in to do something? I mean, she don't even have to. She could come in as a full-time worker and not really talk. Just be one of those girls that she talks, looks good, you make her mad, she knocks you the crap out, sort of thing. How come they don't ever thought about doing that? I mean, they messed up on a lot of stuff here lately. They messed up on Gina Carano. They messed up on J.J. Watt. Basically, what I'm gathering is they're missing the boat on Charlotte and Natty. And the divas are more over than the guys right now. And they've been over that way for about 4 months. Since they started doing the whole, the minute they brought Charlotte in, business picked up. So, and now the guys are struggling. They're struggling everywhere, and it doesn't help that the whole WWE press release deal. Who's ever calling the shots on that? They're doing it all wrong. They need to be putting out press releases for fundraisers and stuff like that's involved. They need to be putting press releases out for stuff that they're doing in local towns, in towns that they're running shows, but they do not need to be dropping press releases every 2 seconds on who's coming in from other organizations to work. In the long run, I've said it many times, I thought NXT was going to be the death of the business. The only problem is they got to figure out how to nurse NXT and keep it alive, because it hit me this morning while I was eating breakfast and having about 8 cups of coffee that I think Vince doesn't have to worry, because I think the UFC's going to phase itself out. I don't think after Dana White, if there's a major lawsuit that goes down against Dana White, the UFC is not going to last. Or the Ferraros, or whatever their name is. That was exclusive. You heard it here. I think the UFC, because they're not the establishment, is basically going to do a WCW and not be around that much longer. Because I think Dana, in a shorter period of time, has got himself in more predicaments than Vince did after basically almost 20 years. Well, when I'm counting 20 years, I'm counting from 97, because that there's whenever business picked back up again, but it's, actually about 25 years. But really longer than that. But Dana, in a shorter period of time, Dana White has put himself in a bigger predicament. On top of that, he's talking trash about people like Frank Shamrock, which absolutely is the stupidest thing in the world, and Randy Couture. I think he's afraid to say anything about Brock, because Brock's so over. You know, it's like all these people are like, they're like, Vince's big problem is he didn't protect his business. It's almost like the whole WCW story again, except it was happening underneath his eyes without him realizing it, because he let Undertaker go mark out to the UFC. You know, like I said, I think his biggest mistake was he should have told, his press release people, his PR people, whenever CM Punk left, they should have dropped a bunch of press releases and said, fine, take him. We don't need him. He didn't do what we said. Now that's the time to drop a press release. That's the time his PR people should have like literally made fun of him, dropped everything negative, say everything negative they could about CM Punk when he left. Said his girlfriend and wife, AJ Lee, was trying to sleep around with everybody in the locker room. I mean, just absolutely make it look like they were taking the biggest crap on the UFC whenever he left. Instead, they let it slide, and they let him get some momentum and do some press conferences and do some shoots and let him go on to other people's podcasts and talk trash about him. But they should have took a big old dump on him. And that way they could have established they were the alpha dog. Because the WWE is the establishment. They lost contact that they're the establishment. I think Vince has let too many TV people and too many shareholders tell him how to handle his stuff for so long that he forgot to handle his business. But back to my deal, the Divas are over. The Divas are over like no tomorrow. I mean, heck, I think I've let 5 or 6 of them just urinate all over me. Don't you know that stuff? To be honest with you, for a while, even though she's not with him anymore, I didn't think Barbie Blank farted forever. I thought she was like an avatar. I didn't think she farted. And it's like sort of like, I'll tell you some fun girls, and she's gotten where she's really doing a lot cosmetically, and she's trying to, you gotta remember, Natty Neidhart's tough as hell. She did a lot of stuff over in Japan. Over in Japan, they work completely different. It's a stronger style. Over here, you gotta remember, they got Ricky Steamboat down in Tampa, and he is one of the smoothest guys ever, but also by today's standards, his style may have been actually too soft. But it matters on which side of the fence you're on that. Work soft, work hard, sort of deal. Because, granted, there's some guys who can take a dang beating and still keep on working. And Natty style, you can see it written all over, but Natty's real good about planning what she does. Summer Rae could be a lot. Summer Rae's, she looks good, and everybody tells me she looks better at a distance than she does up close. But Summer Rae has that look where they eventually need to do like the woman's version of the Fabs, of the Fabulous Ones, and team 2 of the blondes together. Now, I'm not saying team. They could do a deal where they teamed Natty and Charlotte together, then have them turn on each other like Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty did. But they need 2 blondes together again. And they need somebody that can make those other girls work, and that will push them to the limit. They were doing it for a while, but the whole 6-man deal or 6-woman deal, as far as women's wrestling's almost overdone. And it comes back to that Titan TV time and all that. But which one of those divas would you just let piss all over you? That's the question I'm asking. Man, don't you know that stuff smells like champagne? That aroma that some of those girls fart. So, that's the question. Which WWE diva would you just let pee all over you? You know, I phrased a saying not too long ago on Twitter, pee on me hot. You know, like Demi Moore, I'd just let her pee all over me. Oh, Megyn Kelly of Fox News, I'd let her just pee all over me too. It's like, Kimberly Guilfoyle from Fox News. Fox News got some hotties. You know, if WWE was smart, they would drop some of them in on some New York shows every once in a while. You know, pay them a little bit of bucks to, show them out in the crowd. But see, their PR team is too dang busy dropping the wrong kind of bombs. They drop the bombs on stuff that they shouldn't be dropping the bombs on. I don't know whose idea that is, Stephanie or Triple H's. I mean, the girl from the Young Turks, Anna, I would drop a bomb on her. I would, say, hey, we're going to have our cameras on you sitting out in the crowd whenever we do a show at Madison Square Garden. Have a bunch of those girls show up. They're professional people. Do something with them. What's her name? Tamara Holder, that used to be on Fox News, used to be the biggest flirt ever. She would talk about dildos, this out of nowhere on Twitter. And she'd actually respond back. When they're in Miami, use Mickey Monday, use Kristen Hewitt. It's like Kristen Hewitt. I mean, they passed over on so much stuff, and they're not looking at the angles, because I think at times WWE is basically a quieter version of. They're booking in a quieter way. Let me rephrase this. How can I say this where y'all can understand this? They're doing business like WCW, but everybody's staying quiet about it. This is what I speculate. Kevin Nash did an interview where he said that whenever he first went to the WWF, which was WWF back then, that at any given moment in time, you could walk into Vince's office and say, well, okay, where do you see me at in a year? And Vince would break out a notebook and basically chart out and navigate your whole career up until that event 1 year out. I think he used the example of SummerSlam. So, I don't think Stephanie and Triple H and whoever else is on that booking committee is trying to do that. That's how come, that was my whole reason of thinking about bringing Jim Cornette in to manage AJ Styles and Dolph Ziggler and put them together. That way, it would be a reason to have Jim Cornette back on the booking committee. That way, you could have some direction to go with the show again. Because right now, if you look at the show and you listen to everybody talk, it sounds like they're putting that show together like they used to at WCW. So if they're putting their show together like that, there's not... The only difference between them and TNA is the lighting, because everything else is getting done the same. One of the worst things that ever happened in the business, even though everybody knows that competition's good, Pepsi needs Coke, all that, McDonald's needs Burger King, but at the same time, you don't... At one time, I noticed that, now granted, this may be PR people that's doing this, on Stephanie McMahon's social media account, she was friends with Dixie Carter. So why don't you just let the cat out of the bag, and let's just be completely transparent on everything we're doing. And then whenever we start struggling, we go in, we have this gigantic, brain fart, and we don't realize, and we'll do all this, put all this stuff out on social media that we don't have a clue of what we're doing. We don't know what happened to the numbers we have. We started a network and our numbers went down, all that. But back to the Divas. The Divas are the ones keeping them alive, right now. And some of those, Naomi's hot. I'd let Naomi fart on me, I think. And I said yesterday that every time Serena Williams does something big, they need to do something big with Naomi. Either in a heelish way or a babyface way, but they need to involve her, especially if it was on TV, especially if it was a big event that Serena Williams was involved with, and it's all over Sports Center. They need to do something big that week with Naomi. Now that's when you throw an audible. You throw an audible whenever Carolina plays Arizona, you book Charlotte against Spre. That's when you throw an audible. Because it's fresh on people's minds. And they can relate to it easier. The people, the fans, the audience can relate. That's when you throw an audible. But this crap, just like J.J. Watts, probably the biggest mistake the WWE made outside of Brock Lesnar challenging for the UFC title, as he holds the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Now that was the biggest drop ball in wrestling history. And that's a bunch of people not using their head or wanting to be second to begin with. That's how come. It's real weird, right? When all that stuff was going down and all the the takers streaks losing. See, Stephanie knew one thing. Stephanie knew that she had to get the Divas hot, and that's what she did. She did Total Divas, and that shows those girls being a little bit normal, even though. At one time there, I thought the WWE was trying to take the males too far into the superhero direction, cookie cutter bodies. I just don't understand it. But they should have they should have been on top of the Divas a lot longer. They should have been using the Divas a lot more wiser. They should have had Charlotte brought up from NXT a lot faster so they could start doing some bigger and better things. Emma's good. I think I'd let Emma just pee all over me too. I just let her, hike her leg and urinate all over me. But it's just, it's the business right now. They could do so much, and they're holding back. And I don't know if they're waiting on the UFC to play themselves out. But the UFC is definitely in a bind. Their numbers are down. They're on TV too much. A lot of people, whenever you start seeing UFC is fixed videos all over the place, that could either work it could either work one or two ways. Either business is down or business is up, and they had people from the UFC's PR department intentionally post those videos there to keep people talking. So, with that being said, the question is today, which WWE diva would you let this urinate all over you? And, I'd go with Emma, Lee Marie, Natty, Charlotte. They're all hot. I think I would just let them all hot. Just let them just take a pee all over me. All right, RT this, share it. I'm out. The spin stops here.